I do believe my self perception has changed over the course of this semester. I would say it would honestly be because I took Dr. Benson African American Literature class. I would say that I am more open minded now, and it would be because of the class discussions. We were free to express how we felt about certain topics that we would go over in class. Most professors or teachers don't allow you to say what or how you feel, especially about, especially with a course like African American literature. Um, in the class, I did not feel like I had to stay closed minded to certain things. Growing up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in a public school, we weren't offered um, many African American history courses, but eventually the parents uh, would get questions from their kids that made them question well, what kind of classes are my kids taking while they're at school. It can't be ones that are interesting them or keeping them in touch with their culture. Uh, Eventually, they end up offering more African American literature classes, but most of the professors or teachers that taught them were Caucasian themselves. So, any questions or comments you may have wanted to make, they wasn't welcome. You basically were shut down because they didn't want any controversy stirring up. They also didn't want to make any wrong comments about African American history to offend the African American students. Um, One of the most interesting topics that we went over in African American literature was the Black Power movement, especially because right now we're going through the Baltimore riots, and with a variety of cultures in the class, not a wide variety, but a variety of cultures in the class, a lot, well, not a lot, we did get to hear a lot of comments, even from the other cultures, on how they felt about the topic regarding the Black Power movement along with the Baltimore riots. I felt as if we are able to be more open-minded, it will create a more successful student. The importance of reading African American literature shows that the basic things that we were taught about African Americans in the history of the past can differ from what we originally learned within that early schooling stage. Only certain people have gotten acknowledged for the work that they have done within African American history. And while in African American literature, the literatures that we have read has taught me otherwise, and I believe would teach other people otherwise. Otherwise, as being the importance of how we were stereotyped as being dumb. Well, not us, slaves were stereotyped as being dumb and not smart. Even the ones that were free slaves, such as Frederick Douglass, uh, was acknowledged as well, not acknowledged, but I would say hyped as being the only free slave that had writings that drew a lot of attention, but that's not true. There were a lot of free slaves, as well as slaves, such as Miss Frances Harper, who wrote The Two Offerings, a story about two cousins with two different chosen life paths, and the importance of her story, which was a sermon, was to teach the importance of the choices that young people have. You don't necessarily have to stick with that one mind frame of how things should go. I guess it was basically giving or trying to teach or putting in your mind the options of branching out and gaining different experiences. And from taking and reading African American literature, it will do that for you. Different, reading from different authors and writers, such as Booker T. Washington with the Atlanta Compromise speech, and W.E.B. Du Bois with his book, The Souls of Black Folk. Both of those writers had opposing views on how African Americans should be seen and how we should behave, and how uh, whites should look at us, and things of that nature. Without reading in African American literature, I would have never known that those two writers had opposing views. It was never taught to me in middle school nor high school, which is very important for me as a young African American woman to know, and other African American students, along with other cultures, to know. Um, I just really believe that African American literature is very, very important, mainly to African Americans, because we are very, although a lot of people say they're not judgmental, we are very judgmental. And from the things that we are taught, sometimes we can be one minded about certain things when you may be open up to other things just from reading.